Whose fault is it?
Here on Missed Apex Podcast, we never assign anything to a racing incident. Someone must always be to blame. And doing that is the best way, I think, to explore the racing rules and how we actually feel about these incidents. The one answer I won't accept is, oh, it's just a racing incident. It was no one's fault. Let's be all nice. Let's be all Ned Flandery, like McLaren's strategy team trying to be all nice and fair. Because we all know where that leads, to threatening people that they're going to run them down with their race car. So we're going to play Whose Fault Is It? And I think the first racing incident to talk about is McLaren versus Red Bull. Verstappen versus Norris going into that first turn onto the grass. My favourite part was the interviewer on the podium asking Norris if he kept his foot flat over the grass. And I think there was a moment Norris considered lying, but he admitted with his hand gesture that he lifted just a little bit, which is kind of wise, because we also saw how Barcelona 2016 worked out. Then into the first corner, he's side by side with Max Verstappen. Max ends up going into the escape road. So, Alex, I'll ask you, whose fault was all of that?
I don't think anything really happened, but actually it's Lando's fault. But, so, first of all, Lando nailed the start. He's not on pole, so of course he nails the start when it actually is less important. And then drove himself onto the grass. Max actually, I was watching this replay before, Max actually moved away from him a little bit as it got to the grass. He has no obligation to let Lando back onto the circuit. Lando just drove onto the grass and then decided to blame Max for it. And when Lando went onto the grass, Max saw it happen and moved even further away, because you never know what happens when a car hits the grass. Spain 2016. And then as they dove into the first chicane, Lando definitely ran Max off the circuit because he also went off the circuit.
No, he didn't.
He did. He goes over the curb onto the first part of the chicane. So Lando actually went off the circuit. So I actually don't think Max should have given the place back. I'm glad he did, because it was more fun for about 10 minutes. But yeah, that was... Lando definitely did a Max Verstappen, but Max getting a taste of his own medicine, so all's fair that ends fair?
Well, I'm having to rewatch this. I don't remember Norris going off, but go on, Matt.
I'll give you a little cover here, because I'm going to do something I almost never do. And broadly speaking, I'm going to agree with Alex here. I saw the replay after the race. Now, I didn't go back and watch the onboards. I didn't have an overhead shot. But if you just look at the entry to turn one, there's no way Norris was following any kind of the quote unquote guidelines that have been put up for the drivers. He fully sat down, studied film. He studied film and he said, you know what? If I'm remotely alongside Max, I'm going to drive straight to the end of the first turn, and then I'm going to turn right. And that's just going to be a him problem.
I'm glad we're in agreement with the first part with the grass, though, because it was, definitely a case of Verstappen only ever drove into parts of the track that didn't have Lando Norris in them. So it feels a bit weird to go, well, if you wanted to prove that you were forced off, you've got to let him hit you. But you kind of do have to do that, don't you? Oh, I don't think he was all the way off. I'm watching that. I'm going to need some...
Oh, no, he wasn't all the way off, but... Two wheels went over the... He didn't make the corner. Make the corner.
No. If you have two wheels on the track, you made the corner.
He didn't make the corner. He
made the corner.
As I said this multiple times before, the racing rules that the FIA, the stewards have set are rubbish. And I don't agree with them in the slightest. And I set myself by my racing rules, which is that isn't allowed.
Chat, we need some screenshots.
And that was him playing the rules that the FIA have put into thing, but there was no way he was thinking, oh, I'm going to leave space for my mate on the outside. That was get in the dirt.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it later.
Okay, so I think Verstappen was alongside enough to be entitled to room. Looking at what I just saw, and I'm asking chat to do some screenshots. I think then Norris makes the corner because you've got wheels on the track. You make the corner. Had Verstappen held his ground and there'd been contact, that contact is then Norris's fault. However, again, Norris only ever drove into a space that had been vacated by Max Verstappen.
You're leaving out the best bit.
Yeah.
Norris called him an idiot on the radio afterwards.
That's your buddy. You can't call your buddy
No, you definitely can't call your mates idiots, can you, Spanners?
Oh my God. The amount of abuse I've had from guys I know on a kart track. You guys are, Kyle Power, nicest guy. But after I put him in the grass on the cool down lap, he pulled over. I thought, going to do fist bump. And he was just like, for like an hour going, "You're filth. You're the worst person ever. I hope your mum gets a wart right on her face." Because you get angry, don't you?
The people you're worst to are your mates.
Yeah, because you can. No.
Me and my mates are horrible to each other 90% of the time. That's what lads do.
Stuart's pointing out that our chat is too old to do things like screenshots, but I think it's an interesting fundamental disagreement. You saying that he left the track, and I think that doesn't count. I think he stayed on the track there, but I think contact is his fault. And so if we're doing the rules, which we should do, yeah, Verstappen is entitled to space. He's entitled to hold his line, but didn't ultimately. And I wonder if part of the reason Verstappen was alongside was because he was carrying a little bit too much momentum into turn one.
The only reason that Lando was there was because he launched it.
It was a launch.
It was the only reason it was there. It was a clear dive bomb. He was annoyed that Max didn't leave him enough room, which he did, and put him onto the grass. And it was a retaliatory move, is what that was, and he got away with it.
Go on, Matt, wrap it up because we've got some more whose faults is it is stuff.
At the end of the day, it was really nice to see Norris getting away with something for once.
It was nice seeing Norris not lose out on positions as well at the start of a Grand Prix, and even gaining on net eventually for a little while. Right, the other whose faults is it are basically, Alex, you put the comment of nobody is leaving anybody any room. So we've got Sainz versus Bearman, Tsunoda versus Lawson, and we've got Antonelli versus Albon and Stroll versus Ocon.
They all watched Monza 2019, where Leclerc repeatedly drove Lewis off the circuit and didn't get penalties for it, only a black and white flag, which is, as things go, it's a case of, woohoo, I did a bad thing and didn't get a penalty. Yeah.
Hang on.
That's how I won a race at karting a few weeks ago.
To interrupt slightly, though, didn't Hamilton in that same situation then get a penalty for closing the door a little bit on Piastri? And then he got a penalty for that, and he said, "Oh yeah, no, fair enough. I closed the door," and that was more recent. Well, that must have been within the last 2.5 years.
I don't remember that one, but probably. But let's not go into how rules are played against Lewis Hamilton. Otherwise, we'll get otherwise we'll get edged into the ham-fosiness again.
But Tsunoda versus Lawson is quite similar. It was at the same corner, and I just want people to be clear here that we're not talking about being alongside far enough to leave room. On a straight, you can't just drive someone off and hit them. And I think as unhappy as Tsunoda was, and as much as I would love it to be Lawson's fault, Tsunoda did just drive too far over and they ended up interlocking wheels.
I think it's a classic. He's in the junior car. What is he doing there kind of moment?
Oh my God. Did he just do the equivalent of the Alex Albon, "They raced me so hard"? He was basically saying, why was Lawson racing me? They weren't lapping Lawson, but Lawson had not stopped yet. So Tsunoda's argument is, boy, he should just let me pass. It's like, mate, you're not Verstappen. You're not Verstappen yet. You don't get the team orders from Marco saying stay out of Tsunoda's way. So yeah, I think that was a very clumsy overtake or defense, whichever way round. I think it was an overtake, wasn't it, from Tsunoda. The next couple I missed. So Antonelli versus Albon, Stroll versus Ocon. In fact, I think the biggest one is Sainz versus Bearman. Let's do that one first. So, right, I'm going to say my opinion, and I think it's going to irritate Alex. But I think Bearman came from too far back, didn't get enough alongside, left the nose in a disappearing wedge, and caused that crash.
Bearman was being overtaken. He wasn't coming from far back.
Well, no, hang on. So when we get into the braking zone, Sainz is clear. He's clear ahead. So
he wasn't clear ahead.
Yes, he was. Oh my God,
he wasn't. He wasn't. His wheels are still there, and Sainz has done that whole thing which I hate, which is you just turn in like somebody isn't there. Bearman can't just disappear. He hasn't got any obligation to just jump on the anchors, and he is entitled to stay where he is, and it is up to Sainz to find his way around. There was plenty of space for Sainz to get around that corner without hitting Bearman, and he decided not to. in my opinion, if that happened to me in a kart race, and it frustrates the heck out of me, because it's a case of don't just turn in, because I'm still there, I still exist, I don't have to brake at this precise second, so you have to find your way around me without hitting me.
Oh my God, he was so nearly all the way past before they get into the braking zone.
But he wasn't, and they're into a braking zone. He can't just disappear. He's already braking at that point. He can't just disappear and brake more. He's still there, and you still have to behave like the person is there.
Matt?
I'm going to be honest. I think there's more than enough blame to go around for everyone. So before I explain why, I'm going to say, at the end of the day, this is 110% on Bearman, and it's because he's a rookie.
Yeah.
And he's not used to having to pay the price for doing ridiculous stunts like that, because it doesn't matter how many times I crash when I'm in F2 or F3. If that works once and I win a race, then that's worth the 5 times somebody rips my front wheel off and we're both out of the race, right? That's where he's coming from.
Alex, do you not think, though, that his driver coach or whatever will say, mate, that gap was never there? Like, that's inviting a crash.
I drag your eyes across the screen to the Discord.
I'm looking.
Where EJ has put in a picture of Sainz about to turn in with a Haas clearly halfway up the inside of it.
Go back, roll back.
I rest my case, Your Honor. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the next one.
Front axle, rear axle. First of all, front axle, rear axle.
The car exists and it's
there. The one thing
there.
you don't want to do is have your front axle hanging in front of somebody's rear axle as you're going to a turn entry, because that's asking for exactly what we saw.
But that's a problem for both drivers. He is still allowed to be there, because what the other car is supposed to do is work its way around the outside, not just turn into you. The other car cannot just disappear. The other car has an absolute right to be there.
If I agree with you, will you stop talking?
No, probably not.
Okay.
You don't know me at all.
No, I will agree with you if we are outside of the specific set of guidelines that stewards now use. I will agree with you.
I've already told you I ignore those guidelines. That would be
a normal thing. However, by the actual guidelines the drivers are supposed to follow, he was entitled to absolutely no space. Sainz had a very clear overspeed, and the only possible outcome of him leaving his nose there was exactly what we saw. So from a rules point of view, can't really blame Sainz for following the rules. However, I did say blame for everybody, so I'm going to blame Sainz real quick. Come on, Bearman's a rookie. He's clearly wants to tangle, and he's obviously not as up on wheel-to-wheel combat as you and, say, Leclerc were a couple of years ago at Ferrari, where you managed to not crash each other. So just being smart as a veteran, you'd be like, yeah, I definitely got him, but he's a rookie, so maybe I'll leave a tiny bit of extra room so I don't have a crash.
Alex, you're going to want to hear this. I changed my mind.
Okay.
Changed my mind. Sainz didn't have enough to then whip it around the outside and dive straight for the apex, because he was the one overtaking around the outside. That's the argument that's won me over.
Thank you. I'll take that. Just to where you talk about, I'm going to agree with you, Matt, in the sense that where you're a veteran like Sainz, you should know that that person's not going to just disappear and might likely still be there and not just going to concede. We had this with a friend of ours that we used to race with years ago, and he was always, why is it always me? Why am I always the one? Whenever I'm making a move on someone, I'm always the person getting spun round, because he did stuff like this, where there was still a car there, he was turning in, and he was getting spun round. And also, Sainz was not in a good headspace today.
No.
Sainz was in a very bad headspace today, and I'm not remotely surprised that he had an incident today, because he was moaning constantly on the radio, disagreeing with calls. He was not happy that he had to let Alex Albon past him. And I think when you're in a position like that and you're in a headspace like that, incident like this is really obviously going to happen.
It wasn't his fault. He had the bad gloves. Bad battery. He had battery issues, battery deployment issues, and he had the alternate strategy as well. And when they were telling him, we've got to let Albon past, and his reaction was, you can't let Albon past, because, I mean, come on, guys, it's my mum's birthday, and my dog's real sick. Like, he just didn't have a good answer for why you couldn't let Albon by on the bet strategy?
Well, I don't want to bring it up too much because this is still whose fault is it? But a part of that is going to be Williams' strategy team, because why on earth did they want him to go that deep into the race on the medium tire, which was the primary strategy for most of the teams, medium hard? They just kept him out way too long. And it turns out the opposite strategy was actually better, but nobody knew that before the race.
Before we move on, just notes to the production team. Steve, can we edit out the bit where I agree with Van Gien in the end, or use AI to make it that was my opinion? And after the Tamburello, just edit out all the corrections. No, like if I'd have said turn two to the second chicane was Tamburello, 3 nerds would email me and I'd just block them. Be fine. Okay, so right, we can move on now. Antonelli versus Albon. I missed that entirely, Matt. What happened there?
Well, I think basically Antonelli ran Albon off the track, trying to make up positions because he was out of place. And then he wound up going off track himself and getting a penalty for driving erratically, which is actually a 3 track limits violation.
Kimi was a nightmare this weekend. He finally got it together for Q3, but Kimi was a nightmare this weekend. He binned it in practice. He was all over the place throughout the race. He had a very erratic race. And what he did to Alex Albon was they came out of the first chicane, and as they were heading up to Curva Grande, Kimi just continually moved to the left to run Alex off the circuit. And it's just like, and it was move, stop, move, Alex on the grass, and then he moved away. And you just can't do that, Kimi. I'm worried for Kimi.
Yeah.
I expected Kimi to be, and I like Kimi. I think he's a lovely lad.
Great hair. My goodness. Incredible
because he's
hair.
a child. They've all got great hair when they're children. I posted a photo in my kart group the other day from 2011, and the first comment was, "You had dark hair." I'm like, "Oh my God."
You had more hair.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they didn't even go there.
Well, you should sign up for Him's Hair. Then you can get a free consultation using Missed Apex as the offer code.
My barber keeps telling me when. He keeps telling me he'll tell me when.
Oh, Alex, your barber is lying to you.
It still gets busy. Anyway,
my barber's recommending people now that can take some hair from the back and put it on the front.
Trip to Turkey.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm worried for Kimi. I expected him to be not on top of George because of how highly I rate George, but at least, on his heels, causing him issues. But I'm worried for Kimi. I expected him.
Yeah. And it's race after race. So there was more rumblings, and now it's continuing. And yeah, it's a couple of erratic weekends in a row. All of the individual things, like there's no one thing we go, oh no, that's outrageous. He's hit a couple of people. He's been in the gravel a few times. He's had a few off sessions. He's hit Albon today as well. But altogether, it's starting to build up into a big pattern.
Teenagers, am I right?
Teenagers, man.
It's the thing we warned about.
Yeah.
The thing everyone worried about. Not that he's not absolutely talented enough to deserve to be where he's being, but he absolutely was not experienced enough. And, we talk a lot about Norris and pressure, but to me, this is his home race. When they let him loose last season in a Mercedes, he smashed it into the wall.
Yeah.
And this is exactly why you want him in, well, not a Williams of this season, but the equivalent of a Williams, where he can just drive around at the back and learn his craft.
Maria says Antonelli hasn't shown any impressive peak yet. That's the other thing. Hasn't he been out qualified by Russell 100% of the time? No,
Mm-hmm.
Is it not?
I think he's got one.
It's the sprint qualifying in Miami.
And he has got one podium.
Yeah, when his teammate won the race.
Yes.
So I don't think he's got beaten Russell in a race. It's something nil, isn't it?
I think possibly.
On a race that George has finished, yeah, I think
sure.
So.
Yeah, where cars have finished.
But I will say his biggest talent is in the wet. And that is why they brought him up, because that is really something that when he is very special when it rains like that.
But also, their hand was forced by Lewis. They couldn't send him to Williams because they had Sainz and Albon, so they had nowhere to send him. And Lewis left them. They needed a driver.
That's definitely a topic. That feels like a mid-season review or off-season topic. But let's stick to the race review. The last whose fault is it is Stroll versus Ocon, and I'm just going to light the touch paper between Alex and Matt, and I'm just going to walk away. This is not my fight. This is not my fight.
Right, I'll start.
Yeah,
because I can end it straight away. It's fine. Even though I'm against Matt, so he's never going to let it just be ended. So before we actually got into this, it's another one of these cases of another driver moving over and pushing another driver onto the grass. It is as simple as that. Matt is going to come and argue that Stroll turned up in the braking zone. However, the braking zone for that chicane is about the 75-meter board. I have a picture on my screen of Stroll within the bounds of Ocon's car by about the 125-meter mark. God. At that point, he is enough alongside that Ocon can't keep moving left. Ocon hadn't really properly started braking yet, and Ocon then just swipes Stroll off the circuit, a bit like every other one that we've blamed the guy coming across for previously.
I've got it on my screen. Just say you printed it out. I have it printed out.
I'm not Jarno Trulli.
I have it printed out. Jarno Trulli?
It was Jarno Trulli.
Who did what? I have it printed out.
Oh my
Toto
gosh,
Wolff.
He had the diagram
from Brazil.
For weeks about that with what's his name, about whose fault it was, and the other guy kept on looking at him like, really? Really? Are we still like?
Sorry to everyone's speakers who got blown out by Van Gene there. By the way, I'll try and fix that first. When I get rid of the Tamburello correction, I'll fix that. Yeah. Go on, Matt. The defense. I like how Alex did the whole. I'm just a simple country chicken. Matt Trumpets is going to try and tell you here today that Ocon did that. Like, you can't put words in Matt's mouth. Let him argue incorrectly by himself.
It's funny. I think Van Gene there is mistaken a Sharpie drawing for actually going back and looking at the onboards. But that's okay. I can understand these mistakes happen. No, so I'll put it to the audience. It's pretty straightforward. If you have taken a line and you have started braking, and the line and the braking mean that if someone tries to pass you, you're driving into a wedge, and you drive into that wedge and then blame the other person, whose fault is that really? And now we're talking about onboard evidence. So I went back, I looked at the Ocon onboard, and I looked at the Stroll onboard because the replay they showed on the television was kind of useless. And what I discovered was at about the 100-meter mark, Stroll was not alongside Ocon at all.
Oh,
and then that was a 10:44 timestamp. If you go back and look at the F1 TV
I'm
onboard.
Looking at a screenshot here that Alex has posted.
At 10:45,
Alex wins.
You know when you're sitting at poker and you've got a pair of aces and there's already a pair of aces already on the from the flop.
And at the 10:45 stamp, a second later, Ocon was already 3 gears down, and Stroll just kept on coming alongside him, driving into the grass because there was nowhere else to go. I mean, it's pretty simple. Stroll just didn't brake, and Ocon took his normal braking point there. And because he had already set his line and was braking, I mean, I'm going to ask you this, Alex. If someone says, well, you're braking, but someone came alongside, so now you need to move, is that an easy thing to do with your steering wheel once you're braking?
Shouldn't you be braking generally in a lane, like in a straight line?
He was in a lane. If you watch his steering wheel, it doesn't move for quite some time because he's going back because of the nature of how the track moves. What you're seeing is moving to the outside is actually him moving in a straight line. And you get that at Barcelona too.
Okay.
And I've seen it happen in sim racing.
Can I have a quick comment here? Because Alex has posted the screenshots, and A, at 100 meters, Stroll is alongside already, and B, like, Ocon clearly moves over to the right between those two screenshots.
He's moving in a straight line.
To the right.
No, but it doesn't matter.
He's moving in a straight line. Go look at the pictures in our WhatsApp.
Unfortunately, Matt, that doesn't matter because his straight line still puts him cutting across another car.
Wasn't there when he took that line.
Unfortunately,
and he was already
okay, guys,
braking.
One at a time.
Yeah.
Alex.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, is Stroll was there the whole time. And it's a carbon copy of all the other ones that we've seen before. It doesn't matter whether he held his steering wheel straight or not. As you've just said, the tracks aren't necessarily straight. And you have to go within the confines of what is around you and stick to your lane. And lanes move and lanes aren't necessarily straight. Stroll, and bearing in mind, You have me defending Lance Stroll.
Yeah, I know. This is crazy.
So if I was going to put anything at blame for somebody blithering across the circuit and hitting someone, it's going to be Lance Stroll. So the fact that it is Ocon, and the problem was the second I saw this happen and I saw the replay, I'm like, oh God, I'm going to have an argument with Matt about this because he's not going to see it. And it's exactly what it is. Unfortunately, Matt, it is like every other one we've looked at.
So I think just the clarifying rule for me there would be that you have to, on a straight, you have to leave room to the edge of the track. So you're not entitled just to keep moving over. You have to leave a space. You're all the time. You have to leave the space.
Right,
okay, I think we've made our points there. Unless Matt has a closing argument.
My closing argument is very simple. If I've started braking and then you rock up beside me, that's a you problem, not a my problem. And we used to all the time smash people for driving into a disappearing wedge. That's what Stroll did.
That's more of a corner. This is a straight.
If you're basing it on the picture you've taken the photo of, Ocon deserves to be overtaken because he's braking way before the braking zone. That's not even at the bridge yet.
Okay, now we're just going into slander. But that was our segment of Whose Fault Is It?
Whose fault is it?
Okay, there's some genuine upset on the panel here. I think we may have done some serious emotional damage.